The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Wednesday, November 16th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to begin on the international front. Yesterday, reports came that a missile strike from Russia landed in a NATO nation, Poland, killing 2 individuals. That sparked conversations immediately about the implementation of Article 5 of the NATO agreement, which essentially would bring the United States and all of the other NATO nation members into direct conflict with Russia, leading to World War III. World War III was trending online yesterday. Now, as of this morning, reports from NATO investigators are suggesting that what actually happened was a missile defense system from Ukraine in an attempt to block a missile from Russia inadvertently landed in Poland. And so as we go through this day today, investigations into the matter look as though we can avert World War III because the disaster, the tragedy that happened, is now being reported to have occurred as a result of a Ukrainian missile defense system. In response to the possibility yesterday that this was a missile directly from Russia that overshot its target and landed in Poland, the conversations about World War III ensued. Where we stand today, the Putin propagandists, who are extremely happy that this was not Russia. Actually, I'm glad that this wasn't Russia. I have to be honest. I'm glad this wasn't Russia because we don't always know if cooler heads are going to prevail. We don't always know if diplomacy will work in this type of situation because, well, there is a hot war being waged and 2 people in a NATO nation were killed. But in response to the fact that this was, so far to this point, the investigation is showing that it was a Ukrainian missile that was trying to shoot down a Russian missile. In response to that, the Putin propagandists are now calling for NATO to invoke Article 5 and attack Ukraine. We live in some really strange times where hypocrisy is the norm and where disingenuous bad faith arguments are amplified and elevated above anything else. There is a concerted effort by millions of people. Well, I don't want to give them millions, but it gives the appearance that there are millions of people across the globe, specifically in the United States of America, who have a vested interest in the destruction of Ukraine. And the most fascinating part about this is the level of revisionism that is being historical revisionism that's being engaged in order to support this. Constantly, the year 2014, what occurred in Ukraine in 2014, the Euromaidan revolt, the revolution for dignity, is being portrayed as a coup. And what actually happened was a response from the masses of people, the people of Ukraine, the parliament of Ukraine, voting overwhelmingly with a supermajority. I think some 370 out of 400 members of parliament voted to oust then President Viktor Yanukovych. But history has to be rewritten in order to accomplish the goals of the pro-Putin propagandists, who see no problem whatsoever undermining a sovereign nation simply because that's what Vladimir Putin wanted to do. And so we have historical revisionism, the idea of hypocrisy being weaponized. We have to point it out, but it's par for the course in politics, right? Now they're calling for NATO to attack Ukraine as a result of this missile strike yesterday that inadvertently killed 2 people in Poland. Yet they have ardently wrapped their entire argument against Ukraine as a result of their opposition to NATO. But now, if you look through some of the key stakeholders and some of the key voices, some of the key propagandists that are promoting Vladimir Putin's campaign, they're calling for NATO to attack Ukraine. It's absurdity. It's so absurd that it almost need not be mentioned, but I just want to drop that on you to see the level of hypocrisy and absurdity that we are dealing with on the international stage. I mean, let alone the fact that had not Vladimir Putin initiated this war, costing the lives of tens of thousands of Russian soldiers and tens of thousands of Ukrainian citizens and soldiers, had Vladimir Putin not initiated this war, there would not be a war to oppose. There would be no need to call for an end to the war. I know that goes without saying, but it's almost an absurdity that you have to remind yourself of on a regular basis. You cannot call yourself anti-war and support the side that started and sustains the war. It simply does not work like that. It's victim blaming of the highest order. And this entire thing that we have, this entire war that we're experiencing over the last 7-8 months now, it has required the sense of morality that so many former comrades of mine on the left, like this war, if I can take a sidestep before I finish that thought, this war has drawn a clear line between those people who are fighting arguments in good faith, fighting for actual peace, and those who have an agenda to overthrow the entire West. As if that itself would not lead to a global catastrophic war that would cost hundreds of millions of lives. Yet there are those who have never been in this for the sake of peace from the place that we are in, from the spot that human civilization is in right now today. There is a route towards peace. That's not good enough for a large faction of people who find themselves now in league with a warmonger by the name of Vladimir Putin. It is not enough to have a path to peace. They just want to overthrow the United States of America. And yes, from that perspective, I have a problem with them because this is our home. Those of us that live here, who are born here, who have been here for generations, who built this country, Black people, African Americans specifically, this is our home. And there's a group who are now so deluded in their politics, in their thinking, in their arguments, that they feel that the path towards a prosperous future is through the destruction of the United States and subservience to one Vladimir Putin. One, good luck with that. Vladimir Putin's propaganda is better than his armament. Vladimir Putin's propaganda is better than his soldiers. It's better than his, George Bush would say, strategery. But number two, don't expect for those of us who engage in good faith to simply lay down and to allow these propagandistic arguments, these bad faith, hypocritical arguments to go forth as though they are the truth, as though they are the moral thing, as though they are the genuine good faith argument. No. We are engaged in a hot war on the global stage because of Vladimir Putin. The threat of nuclear weapons are as a result, the threat of the use of nuclear weapons come as a result of Vladimir Putin's actions. And Vladimir Putin himself is losing favor amongst his people in his nation, and he's going to pay the price. And anyone who finds himself contorting logic, twisting their arguments, so much so that they have to concoct some cockamamie narrative, one, rewrite history to say that this is a result of the 2014 quote unquote coup, when it was not a coup. It was an impeachment and ouster of a longtime Putin pawn by the name of Viktor Yanukovych, who had done everything that he could to help implement Vladimir Putin's vision through the presidency of Ukraine. The Ukrainian people said no. They got rid of him in 2014. But that is the flashpoint, and that is the narrative. That's the place where all of these propagandists have to begin their narrative, because that's the place where they can do a sleight of hand and take the literal talking point of Vladimir Putin in 2014 as a result of the impeachment. Vladimir Putin said, no, this is not an impeachment. This is a coup. And all of his flunkies, even those that you follow on Twitter, have gone along with that language. So they have contorted themselves into a position where they have to side with the person who initiated the war. They have to side with the person who is making this war persist. They have to rewrite history, and every argument has to be done in good and bad faith. And yet they want to feign as though they are the anti-war side of the equation. No, I don't care how far this has divided the American left. That's actually rather irrelevant when you consider that there are people who are fighting for their lives, for their homeland, for their families, against a tyrant by the name of Vladimir Putin. The good news is that there will be no escalation in hostilities into a global war, into World War III, because of the unfortunate events yesterday that happened. NATO investigators have concluded that those missiles that struck Poland came from Ukraine, as Ukraine was trying to defend itself against missile strikes from Russia. It's the most unfortunate case of collateral damage, but at least we know now that everyone worried about World War III can breathe, at least for one more day.
Ron has gotten too big for his britches.
He's out.
He has plenty of time to gain wisdom.
Trump or death.
Let him stay in Florida for a while. Everything this
We're taking him
has,
out.
everything he's got, he goes to Trump.
It's Trump or death.
This was the prelude to Donald Trump announcing last night that he is running again in 2024. I will play a clip or two from his speech at Mar-a-Lago last night, but I can assure you that it was the same thing that you have heard every other time you hear Donald Trump speak, with one exception. His energy was lower than that of Jeb Bush. Now, before I play a clip of Donald Trump, I want to play a clip from ABC Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl, who described people trying to leave the speech before it was even over.
Incredibly low energy. I actually saw people trying to leave and people leaving early even before he was done. He's still speaking now. And then they, I think perhaps a little concerned that the hall would empty out too much. They actually started preventing people from leaving. So now they're no longer allowing people to leave.
So Trump last night had a captive audience, literally, not a captive audience across news channels as Fox News, CNN, and other broadcasters turned away from him, muted his speech, and began discussing other things. Fox News is a critical player in this conversation, as they have made it clear that they are not going to support Donald Trump this time around. Neither is the family of Donald Trump. Not a single family member besides Melania Trump showed up to support his announcement for re-election. Ivanka Trump made it clear in a statement that she's no longer going to participate in politics. Now, don't mistake this for nobility. She and her husband got all the money they would ever need from Saudi Arabia during the time that they served underneath Donald Trump the first time. So this isn't a noble move. This is more of, we got everything we needed from this man, and he's an embarrassment now. Let's distance ourselves. So here's a clip or two of Donald Trump in his low energy, literal captive audience announcement last night.
Total breakdown of law and order. I will restore public safety in American cities and other communities that need our help. And if they don't want our help, we're going to insist that they take our help this time. Because, you know, the Democrat governors, these are all Democrat cities. The governors and mayors are supposed to ask for the help, and they would never ask for the help. And yet people are being shot and killed at random like nobody's ever seen before. And we love both sides. We're going to bring people together. We're going to unify people. And it was happening in the previous administration, previous to the previous. And what was bringing them together was success. Prior to COVID coming in, the people were calling me, you wouldn't believe it. People that were so far left, I figured they'd never speak to me and I would never speak to them. But our success was so incredible, like never before. And then COVID started coming in from China. We call it the China virus. Some people call it other things. But
that was just a small taste of the energy level. And as you can see, he's recounting his greatest hits so far. Fox News turned away at this point. CNN turned away at this point. People tried to leave, but he was building up to something. He was building up to his big finish. He got enough energy after an hour to give America his big finish. Here it is.
We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America glorious again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Thank you.
And there we have it. Donald Trump is running again in 2024. He has a base of committed supporters who will follow him to the end. As you heard at the beginning of this portion of the podcast, the people who were anticipating his return, declaring that it's Trump or death. I don't expect the Republican Party to fall in line. He could scarcely get a single congressperson there. He didn't even have his own family there. And now he's lost Fox News. Rupert Murdoch has made it clear that he is not going to support Donald Trump this time around. Now, I have a problem with that in and of itself. The fact that Rupert Murdoch has so much power that he can dictate who is going to be and who will not be the Republican nominee. The amount of influence and the amount of reach that Fox News has, the fact that they are not supporting Donald Trump this time around is probably more important than the fact that he's not going to get support from a lot of Republicans. Josh Hawley, the coward who threw his fist up at the January 6th rally, but when it came out later, he was running scared through the halls of the Senate. He even declared that the Republican Party as they know it is dead.
I think that this election was the funeral for the Republican Party as we know it. The Republican Party, as we have known it, is dead. And voters have made that clear. And in particular, the folks who did not vote for Republicans in this last election were independent voters, working class independent voters, folks who voted for President Obama once upon a time, folks who then voted for President Trump but stayed home this time. We are not a majority party unless we can appeal to those voters.
I can't say that I disagree with what Josh Hawley is saying here, with one glaring exception. People realize that underneath the veneer of civility, all of these Republicans are as extreme as Donald Trump. Donald Trump simply dispelled with the very notion of civility. He didn't care. He was shameless in his bigotry and his callousness. And I think Republicans really believe that that's the only thing that is preventing them from moving forward. Listen to this clip of Mitch McConnell as he gave pretty much the same assessment that Josh Hawley gave without directly calling out the name of Donald Trump.
It's pretty obvious, and all of you have been writing about it, what happened. We underperformed among independents and moderates because their impression of many of the people in our party in leadership roles is that they're involved in chaos, negativity, excessive attacks, and it frightened independent and moderate Republican voters. And we saw that, which is why you all recall I never predicted a red wave. We never saw that in any of our polling in the states that we were counting on to win. There was no wave. We had national issue set that was favorable, but as a result of our own, the perception many of them had that we were not dealing with issues in a responsible way and that we were spending too much time on negativity and attacks and chaos, they were frightened.
Yeah. They were also frightened by the fact that this same group tried to overthrow democracy. This same group actually did away with a woman's right to choose. This same group is trying to suppress voters all around the country. This same group is in league with Vladimir Putin. There's a lot more going on than the image of Donald Trump. But I do believe that the Republican Party is now done with the image of Donald Trump. I just hope that Trump can hang out long enough for he and Ron DeSantis to rip each other apart. If he can do that and then disappear forever, what a glorious time it would be.
Go go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. A very special welcome to our two newest patrons who have decided to support the Benjamin Dixon podcast. Very special welcome to Robert K. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. And Clifton M. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family. Whoa, wait a minute. By going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, no commercials, and you get access to our bi-weekly patron party where all of the family shows up. DJ Exclusive is there. Rebecca Azor comes through when she can, and we always have a good time. Patreon.com/The BPD Show, and we will be back right after this break.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. I want to play a clip for you that I got from Right Wing Watch. They're on Twitter at Right Wing Watch. Say that 3 times quickly. And it's a clip of Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, who was reelected on Tuesday. And this is a clip of him recently dedicating, quote, every square inch of the state to Jesus, with the authority that he has as governor and the spiritual authority and the physical authority that God gave him. He claims Oklahoma for God. Take a listen in.
Father, we just claim Oklahoma for you. Every square inch, we claim it for you in the name of Jesus. And Father, we can do nothing apart from you. And we know that we don't battle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and darkness. And Father, we just come against that. We just loose your will over our state right now in the name of Jesus. We just thank you that we claim Oklahoma for you as the authority that I have as governor, and the spiritual authority and the physical authority that you give me. I claim Oklahoma for you, that we will be a light to our country and to the world right here from our state.
I've got a few more clips, actually one more clip that I want to play for you from Right Wing Watch. But before I do, I want to emphasize something. It is imperative that the people of good faith, and I don't mean religious faith here, I mean people who engage in good faith, no matter what you believe or what you don't believe, it is so imperative that we unite more than ever before. And this is why no matter how busy I get, a portion of every day is committed to organizing against Christian nationalism. Because I don't care how somber and how reflective their tone is. What they seek to do, what this governor seeks to do, and every person in that audience who's whispering amen in their softest, most sincerest tone, what they seek to do is to instill a theocratic state that has the ability to punish quote unquote sinners with the force of law. And you should know that everyone who does not conform to their precise definition of Christianity is a target, is considered a sinner. So even me, being a black Christian, would be targeted as much as anyone else, because this is an authoritarian mindset. It is a totalitarian mindset, one that requires everyone bow to their very specific interpretation of Christianity, which, by the way, just so happens to enshrine the power of white supremacy, the economic might of white men, conservative men specifically. It is perfectly in line with the Republican Party, and I'm sorry, there's just no way the God of the universe is so small that it could fit in the back pockets of the Republican Party. It's no way. And this is why I argue from a religious perspective, because even at face value, what they're arguing is absurd. But that doesn't stop them. What they're requiring, what they're asking us to do is not only absurd, it's unconstitutional. It is detrimental to humanity. Christian nationalism poses an existential threat to our democracy, to the freedoms and liberty of every single person who does not want to conform to white evangelical zealotry. But here we are in the year of our Lord 2022, dealing with religious zealots who have wrapped themselves in the appearance of, and it's not all of them, but I want you to look at this particular politician. Oh, he's smooth with it. You know, he's peaceful in his talk. He's not as bombastic as these religious these preachers who are going around screaming, if you're a Democrat, you're going to hell. No, he's much smoother with it. And I don't care how soft the tone, the intention is to make sure that they can use the force of Oklahoma law and federal law to punish who they deem to be sinners. Listen to this next clip. Now, this guy is a little different. His approach, he's not a politician, but he's now lamenting what the people have done, what the election results did to God's man, Donald Trump.
I'm not happy with what you're doing to my nation, and I'm not happy about what you're doing to my man. Now, he's speaking about Mr. Trump right there. He has yielded to me. He's endeavored to follow my word. And I am not happy with this that is going on right now. And then this is the second time I've ever sensed this, but I've sensed the Lord doing this. And he says, watch me work.
Yes.
Watch me work. So this is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy with what's going on. He's not happy with some of these things that have been decided, and he's not happy with the opposite direction that he wants to go. Where abortion is concerned, where the Supreme Court is concerned, where religious liberty is concerned, where Israel is concerned. And he's saying, watch me work.
Yes.
So these people have a full expectation. They have been waiting on and counting on God coming to overthrow this system so that he can install Donald Trump. Now, we heard earlier how weak Donald Trump is right now. But yet these people are still standing by Donald Trump all the way to the end. And when I mean the end, I mean the end of democracy. So it is incumbent upon all of us, no matter what you believe, no matter what you don't believe, so long as you believe in coexistence and democracy, we have to unite against these monsters because they are so deluded that they believe that they have the ability to speak on behalf of God and that God is on the side of Donald Trump. I want to talk briefly about this next subject because, one, I haven't had a chance to talk about her for a while on the podcast. And two, I don't want to get out of pocket in some of my comments when I think about what Vladimir Putin is doing to Brittany Griner, our sister, Brittany Griner, who has been moved from being detained in Moscow during pending all of her trials and appeals. She has been moved to a location that her attorneys nor her family knows where she is. We just know that she has been moved to a penal colony. She is a political prisoner of Vladimir Putin. And in this process, the family requested that we, all of us, allow the Biden administration time to do what they needed to do because, one, we did not want to amplify the significance of her, because the more we amplified how important she was to us, the more concessions and the more difficult Vladimir Putin was going to make it to get her free. And so for some time, a lot of voices that otherwise would have just been going on a rampage to get her free, they stood down to allow the United States time to do what it was trying to do. And this is not to slight against the State Department and their efforts. They tried a political prisoner swap. They tried several things, and Vladimir Putin chose to just double down on penalizing this champion because she had a vape pen with weed in it. I don't have many comments that I can say publicly on air, but I just hope that people can see Vladimir Putin for who he is, for who and what he is. There is nothing progressive. There is nothing forward thinking. There is nothing remotely close to liberation in the thinking and the politics and the actions of Vladimir Putin. He is an enemy of the people. He is not the socialist vanguard. A lot of my former comrades who hate me with the fire of 10,000 suns now because I've called out their BS, particularly around Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A lot of them they like to try to describe Vladimir Putin as if he's some type of global hero fighting this valiant fight against the evil West. When in reality, Vladimir Putin is nothing more than a ex-KGB oligarch who got wealthy off of murder and political intrigue. That's who and what he is. He is not a friend to black people. He does not represent the Russia of Paul Robeson days, where black people escaped Jim Crow and went to the USSR. This is not who Vladimir Putin is. Vladimir Putin is in the order of the Orthodox Church, represented by his patriarch Kirill. Those people who are as much in bed with oppressive ideas, beliefs, and religious dogma as white evangelicals are in this country, even more so. Vladimir Putin has shown himself to be an enemy of the poor. He has shown himself to be an enemy of progress, and he is showing himself to be an enemy of black people. And he is rubbing in our faces our sister, Brittany Griner, simply because he can. Simply because he can. So anyone who is out here forwarding this idea that Vladimir Putin is a friend of black people and that the black thing to do is to support him, you are as deluded as Herschel Walker, Kanye West, and Ben Carson. Patrons, stay tuned. We have a lot more after the break.